October 12th, 2000. Aden Harbor, Yemen. The USS Cole, a billion-dollar guided missile destroyer, sits calmly refueling. Suddenly, a small fishing boat approaches. Friendly waves from two men on board. Then, a 40-foot hole rips through the ship's hull. 17 sailors dead. 39 wounded. The attackers? Two men in a cheap boat packed with explosives. This wasn't science fiction. This was greenwater warfare. And it's the nightmare that keeps every U.S. Navy commander awake at night. Because in these deadly coastal zones, America's most advanced warships become sitting ducks. You've probably heard of blue water operations, deep ocean, aircraft carriers, total naval dominance. But green water? That's a different beast entirely. It's where the rules change. Where a $500 boat can sink a $2 billion destroyer. Where technology doesn't guarantee survival. And where our brave sailors face threats more terrifying than any missile ever built. Introduction. The term green water sounds harmless enough, but to anyone who's served in the U.S. Navy, it represents one of the most dangerous operational environments on Earth. Green water refers to coastal waters, ports, and harbors. The zones starting roughly 100 nautical miles from shore, extending right up to the coastline. It sits between the safety of deep blue ocean and the extreme shallows of brown water river operations. But here's what makes it absolutely terrifying. In green water, our Navy can't use its greatest advantages. Carrier strike groups must operate closer to shore. Destroyers and cruisers become vulnerable. Submarines lose their stealth. And every single threat multiplies by 10. Naval strategist Robert Rubel redefined green water in a way that should concern every American. He calls it those areas of ocean which are too dangerous for high-value units. Too dangerous for our most advanced warships. Let that sink in. Because in green water, the enemy doesn't need advanced missiles. They don't need fighter jets or submarines. All they need is determination, small boats, and explosives. And that combination has proven deadlier than almost anything else our sailors face. What do you think is the biggest threat to our Navy in coastal waters? Drop your answer in the comments below. The Cole attack reality. Let's go back to that morning in Aden. Commander Kirk Lippold had his ship on Threat Condition Bravo. That's the second highest alert level out of 4. His guards were specifically watching for small boats. The Cole wasn't caught completely off guard. They were prepared. But preparation wasn't enough. 2 Al-Qaeda operatives in a small fiberglass boat approached the massive warship. They waved. Some crew members even waved back, thinking they were harbor workers. Within seconds, 400 to 700 pounds of explosives detonated against the Cole's port side. The blast was catastrophic. It didn't just damage the ship, it tore through compartments. Sailors who survived the initial explosion found themselves trapped below deck as water rushed in. Others were thrown across rooms by the shockwave. The ship listed dangerously. For hours, the crew fought to keep their vessel from sinking entirely. Here's what makes this attack so significant. The USS Cole was one of the most advanced destroyers in the world. Aegis combat system, sophisticated radar, trained crew, billion-dollar technology. And 2 men in a cheap boat nearly sent it to the bottom of the harbor. This wasn't the first attempt either. Just months earlier, Al-Qaeda tried the exact same attack on another destroyer, the USS the Sullivans. That attack failed only because their boat was overloaded with explosives and got stuck in mud. They had to use a crane to lift it out. Somehow, Yemeni security services either missed this, ignored it, or were complicit. The terrorists learned from that failure. They adjusted. And the Cole paid the price. After the attack, the FBI sent over 100 agents to Yemen. What they found was disturbing. The investigation environment was hostile beyond belief. Agents were met at the airport by Yemeni special forces, each soldier pointing an AK-47 directly at them. Local television broadcast calls for jihad against America every single night. The security camera footage from the harbor? The crucial moment of the explosion had been conveniently deleted. This is green water warfare, And the Cole attack was just the beginning of understanding how vulnerable our ships really are. But the Cole wasn't an isolated incident. It exposed a fundamental weakness that our enemies have been exploiting ever since. And the Navy's own tests proved something even more alarming. Even our newest ships, specifically designed to fight in green water, can't always stop these attacks. Swarm attack vulnerability. In 2015, the Navy conducted a live fire test off the coast of California. The USS Coronado, a littoral combat ship built specifically for coastal warfare, faced a simulated swarm attack. Multiple small boats, remote-controlled, armed, racing toward the ship at high speed. The Coronado had every advantage: 57mm guns, 30mm rapid-fire weapons, Hellfire missiles, advanced radar systems, a crew trained specifically for this exact scenario. The results? Disturbing. The Coronado ultimately defeated all the attacking boats, but 2 of them penetrated the ship's keep-out zone. That's the range where rocket-propelled grenades become effective, where anti-tank missiles can be fired, where even heavy machine guns can cause serious damage. Even worse, during the engagement, the ship suffered repeated technical failures. Network communications faulted. Gun elevation systems malfunctioned more than a dozen times. The crew burned through massive amounts of ammunition just to stop a handful of small boats. Pentagon testing director Michael Gilmore didn't mince words in his report. He said the Coronado's inability to defeat this relatively modest threat beyond keep-out range under test conditions raises serious questions about its ability to deal with more challenging threats. Think about that. Under controlled test conditions, with advance warning against remote-controlled boats, the ship barely succeeded. Now imagine the real thing. 10 to 20 boats, manned by determined attackers willing to die, approaching from multiple directions simultaneously, some carrying explosives, others with missiles, all moving at 35 knots or faster. NATO research confirms something even more terrifying. Modeling suggests that current NATO frigates are vulnerable to swarms of just 4 to 8 small boats in green water. 4 to 8. That's all it takes to threaten ships worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Before we dive deeper, please take a second to like this video and subscribe. Over 98% of viewers watch without subscribing. It costs you nothing but makes a huge difference to us. The multi-layered threat. But small boat attacks are just one piece of the green water nightmare. What really makes these coastal zones terrifying is the combination of threats our sailors face simultaneously. Shore-based anti-ship missiles. During the Cold War, green water meant areas where naval forces might encounter land-based aircraft. Now, with modern missile technology, enemies can position truck-mounted launchers anywhere along the coast. These missiles can be hidden in buildings, caves, or forests. They can be moved constantly to avoid detection. And they can be launched with just minutes of warning. Land-based aircraft add another layer of danger. Fighter jets operating from coastal air bases don't need long-range fuel tanks. They can loiter near their bases, waiting for targets. The moment a U.S. warship enters range, they can strike quickly and retreat before the ship's air defenses can respond effectively. Diesel-electric submarines become nearly invisible in shallow coastal waters. Unlike nuclear submarines, they can operate almost silently when running on battery power. They can sit on the ocean floor, completely motionless, waiting for targets to pass overhead. Modern diesel submarines are so quiet that even our most advanced sonar systems struggle to detect them until it's too late. Naval mines represent perhaps the oldest, but still one of the most effective threats. Bottom mines can be disguised to look like rocks or debris. Moored mines can lurk just beneath the surface, invisible to radar. Modern mines can be programmed to ignore the first few ships that pass, then detonate under the 5th or 10th vessel. This makes mine sweeping incredibly difficult and time-consuming. Here's a question for all you Navy veterans out there. What was the most dangerous mission you faced in coastal operations? Share your experience in the comments. Terrorist infiltration is another constant worry. In green water, ships must operate near populated areas. Harbors, ports, coastal cities. Anywhere where hostile actors can observe ship movements, plan attacks, and position resources. The Cole attack proved that even when ships are on high alert, determined terrorists can find ways to get close enough to strike. But here's what keeps admirals up at night. All these threats can happen simultaneously. A swarm of small boats distracts the crew while a shore-based missile launches. Diesel submarines position themselves along the ship's escape route. Mines block the harbor exit. Land-based aircraft wait to strike any ships that try to provide support. This is called layered defense, but from the enemy's perspective. And it's devastatingly effective. Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard has been practicing these exact tactics for decades in the Persian Gulf. They maintain large fleets of small, fast attack boats specifically designed for swarming. China is now developing the same capability, but with unmanned surface vehicles controlled by artificial intelligence. The goal? Neutralize America's aircraft carrier advantage through sheer numbers and coordination. The Navy's response. So how is the Navy responding to this nightmare scenario? The Littoral Combat Ship program was supposed to be the answer. Fast, agile, modular ships that could swap mission packages based on the threat. Anti-submarine warfare one day. Mine countermeasures the next. Surface warfare against small boats the day after. The LCS was designed from the keel up for green water operations. Top speed of 40 plus knots, making it faster than almost any attack boat. Shallow draft allowing operations in waters where larger ships can't go. A flight deck for 2 helicopters. A stern ramp for launching small boats. Modular weapon systems that could be tailored to specific missions. On paper, it sounded perfect. A ship that could hunt submarines, sweep mines, and destroy swarm attacks, all while being cheap enough to build in large numbers. The original plan called for 52 ships at roughly $220 million each. Reality turned out very different. The program suffered from requirement creep. Each new capability added weight, complexity, and cost. The ships grew larger. The automation systems became more complicated. The price tag ballooned. And worst of all, reliability issues plagued both classes of LCS from the start. Diesel generators failed repeatedly, water jets broke down, air conditioning units couldn't handle the heat. Cybersecurity deficiencies created vulnerabilities. The ships that were supposed to be the best swarm killers in the surface fleet struggled to keep themselves operational during basic deployments. The surface warfare mission package did show promise. 24 Hellfire missiles give decent standoff range against small boats. The 30mm gun systems can shred fiberglass hulls. MH-60 helicopters provide aerial reconnaissance and strike capability. Rigid hull inflatable boats allow the crew to take the fight to approaching attackers. But the system only works if everything functions properly. And too often, it doesn't. What ship do you think is best suited for protecting our sailors in dangerous coastal waters? Let us know your thoughts, but technology alone won't solve the green water problem. Tactics matter just as much. The Navy has developed new procedures for operating in high-threat coastal areas. Ships now deploy small boats as pickets, creating a defensive perimeter before potential attackers can get close. Helicopters and drones provide constant overhead surveillance. Multiple ships operate together, providing overlapping fields of fire. The wake from a fast-moving LCS can be 15 feet high. That alone can swamp small boats before they ever reach the ship. Combined with the ship's 40-knot speed, it can often outrun threats while positioning itself for optimal weapons employment. Crew training has intensified dramatically since the Cole attack. Sailors practice swarm defense scenarios constantly. They drill on recognizing threats in crowded harbors. They learn to distinguish between innocent fishing boats and potential attackers. They train to make split-second decisions under pressure. Force protection measures have been completely overhauled. Ships no longer refuel in potentially hostile ports without massive security precautions. Multiple layers of armed guards. Sonar systems to detect underwater threats. Deck-mounted machine guns manned continuously. Small boat patrols circling the ship 24/7. The Navy also increased anti-terrorism funding from $3.5 billion in 2000 to even higher levels today. Maritime Force Protection Command was created specifically to oversee security for deployed forces. Mobile security forces train constantly for exactly these scenarios. Special operations forces now deploy with ships entering high-threat areas. Navy SEAL teams and other special warfare units can conduct preemptive operations against known threat positions. They can board suspicious vessels before they get close. They can secure harbors and coastlines ahead of ship arrivals. Intelligence gathering has become absolutely critical. Human intelligence networks in coastal regions. Signal intelligence monitoring enemy communications. Overhead imagery tracking small boat movements. All of this gets fed into threat assessments that determine whether ships should even enter certain areas. Conclusion: the green water threat fundamentally changed how the U.S. Navy operates. Before the coal attack, many commanders viewed coastal operations as relatively routine. Refueling stops in friendly ports were considered safe. Small boats were seen as minor annoyances at worst. October 12, 2000, shattered that illusion forever. 17 sailors paid the ultimate price to teach the rest of the fleet a critical lesson. In green water, there are no safe assumptions. Every fishing boat could be a threat. Every harbor could hide danger. Every coastal operation requires maximum vigilance. Our enemies learned something too. They learned that asymmetric warfare works, that determination and creativity can overcome technological superiority, that America's most advanced warships have vulnerabilities that can be exploited with relatively simple means. Iran continues developing swarm boat tactics. China invests heavily in coastal defense systems, specifically designed to keep U.S. ships away from their shores. Non-state actors watch and learn, planning their own attacks on naval vessels. But here's what our enemies often forget. They're not facing technology. They're facing American sailors. Men and women who train constantly, who learn from every mistake, who adapt and overcome, who refuse to be intimidated even when operating in the most dangerous waters on Earth. The sailors of the USS Cole didn't surrender after the blast. They fought for hours to save their ship. They rendered aid to wounded shipmates. They patched holes. They pumped water. They refused to let that destroyer sink, even when it seemed hopeless. And they succeeded. That's the spirit that defines our Navy. Not the ships. Not the weapons. The people. Sailors who understand the risks they face in green water, but accept those risks anyway, because the mission demands it. If this video opened your eyes to the dangers our Navy faces in coastal waters, hit that like button. Subscribe to stay informed about the challenges and triumphs of our armed forces. And share this with anyone who supports our military. Stay safe, stay informed, and God bless our sailors.